I'd uh, I'd said before. I'd said before. I'd said before that, I've never taken an oath. I'd said before that I'd never taken an oath. But there was a day when I was alone. The only oath type thing I ever took. On a day when I was alone. After days of crying. And I'm not trying to say this to be like, oh, poor me. But what I mean is, definitely, many of you can relate to it. Innocence. But innocence is misunderstood, in a way, in the same way that faith is misunderstood. Or rather, it's misunderstood not as being opposite. The common notion of faith is not in error. It's a truncation. And for good reason. These truncations of knowledge are to protect us. Because in our specialness, in our empathy, we have the ability to comprehend terrors incomprehensible to other beings. And in our perceptual capacity, we're able to understand that in a way that other beings, other contingencies, other animals are not able to. I will bring in the question of, is an enchanted, enlightened, touched, lesser being greater than an unenlightened human? I won't go more into that, but innocence is misunderstood as a truncation in the common notion, in so much as normally when we think of protecting innocence, or innocence lost, right? But again, that has to do with St. Thomas. Lost causes, lost to be found. When you've done something, when you've permitted an act, when you've made a choice via free will, you've lost your innocence, right? I've lost my innocence. But it's not lost as in gone. It's lost, not gone. It's lost, not destroyed. It's lost innocence, not destroyed innocence, not negated innocence. It's lost. And when you find it, then it is found at a higher level. The innocence we are to protect is the innocence within ourselves and the innocence out there in the world. the way we normally think of innocence is those fragile things, those young things, those seedlings, those younglings, babies, toddlers. The sprouting early spring seeds. This innocence, we protect it, we nurture it, right? But then, if you're like me, we do things in our lives that corrupt or pervert our innocence, though we don't realize it in the midst of it. Often, it only comes later, and then we realize that we've lost our innocence, and then we figure, fuck it, I've lost it. I lost it. And then we continue down these paths that brought us to our losing. Because we figure, fuck it, it's lost. Can't get it back, right? But lost things are found. So then in this corrupt fallen sinner, within this corrupt fallen sinner, the innocence still is. It's just lost. To be found. Well, at the same time, innocence still exists without. And the horrible truth, the terrible truth, the terrible temporal truth, it's a temporal truth, it is also an eternal truth, but it's a great circle around the sphere of eternity. Is that even a baby hawk is innocent, right? Even a baby serpent is innocent. And it's not long before they become uninnocent, as we do. But we are different from the serpent. So, sympathy for the devil is saying, I'm sorry you were made thus. It is not saying, I will follow you into the bloodletting. I will not follow you. I did take a kind of vow once. The only type of thing I ever did, just in my crying, in my prayer, in my living prayer, there was a day where I kneeled with snot and tears running so far over my face that it stretched across my whole body as a web. And it went on like that for a long while. And it came again and again. It's not something I wish to relive, but I know it will return upon me. And again, for good reason. To bring me back into the truth. We seek the truth. And part of the truth is that we seek the truth. And part of the truth is that temporarily, in this day and age, the truth is still brutal and butcherous. And the truth that the truth wishes to come to is not, or at least is less so. The oath I made between myself and the Most High, insofar as I could conceive it, the Parmenidean it, as in it is, which is the same Greek word for they are, which is I've also heard interpreted as what is. Which I mean is, at least the Spinozan God, but and you can just go upward from there, but was that I will protect innocence. With snot and tears running down me like a web over my body. One knee up, one knee down, a fist on my ground, and characteristically I said, I will protect innocence. Much more emphatically than that. Alone. But not alone. Right over there. I'll never forget it, But it wasn't then that I realized, or that I learned, that even me and my violations, I wouldn't even say possess innocence. I inherently am constituted I am inherently imbued, constituted, coalescent with innocence. Because I have violated it, because I have lost it, doesn't mean, I want to say that I don't still possess it, but it's not mine. I am its. I do not possess innocence. I am possessed by innocence. I am its. What does that mean? It means no matter how many perverse things I have done, no matter how many horrible things I have done, so long as I still take on this breath, this bread, this breath, as long as I still take on the imagination of goodness, bread, breath, breadth, breadth, laterality, imagination, imagining the good, I, magi, I, teacher, I, rabbi, I, magic, Gauss, the imaginary plane, Gaussian primes. Gauss said imaginary numbers shouldn't be called such, they should be called lateral numbers. Lateral. Breadth. Bread. Breath. Never mind Eisenstein. Not Einstein. Well, not, but also. I don't have innocence. I violated innocence. I violated that which possesses me. Love. And a good, kind, gentle, peaceful, humble love. I will protect innocence. Overcoming inner hatredness, one-upsmanship, competition versus collaboration, or, the dialectic versus or dialection versus analogisms, not algorithms, analogisms. I don't have the words right. These aren't my ideas. I've listened to thousands of people. I don't have an idea. The only thing I have is the innocence I've been given. I've been given innocence and I've been given free will. Above and beyond that, I've been given individuality. So you could say, I have one molecule, I have one atom. And this entire, the breathtaking scope of this cosmos, in that entire inconceivable volume, I have one molecule of individuality, which if I can nurture the innocence, the truth that encompasses that, then it can give birth and contribute to the whole in the right way. And that will give me great pleasure. And the more that I'm able to do that, the more, pleasure is probably the wrong word, but like fulfillment I will have. And if I don't do that, I will never have fulfillment. I am. I am. I am. I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. So, one of the things about the whole idea of the unified theory is that it has to unify everything, right? And that's why I guess I've been more and more into like I wouldn't say the Catholic Church necessarily as it popularly presents itself, but the backbone of the Catholic Church, including every offspring. I pretty much am pretty sure I will never join the Catholic Church, but I'm pretty sure I'm becoming a little bit of a warrior for it, which is a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Yet I'm called to its necessity. It's fucked up. Because I'm a Thomas the Doubter all the way down, and that is my position, right? People harsh on, in Catholic circles, like, people harsh on Thomas the Doubter, right? But yet he was chosen. And it's, for that matter, we should remember that Judas was also chosen. Because Jesus, if Judas did not betray Jesus, where would we be now? And it's not like Judas was beating down Jesus' door. He was chosen. Jesus walked by 1,000 to get to one. We have to understand these things in a deep way. What the other apostles or disciples said about Judas, and it's not this or that or this or that. It's look at the big picture. But anyway. Because they've preserved the story, including the Apocrypha. Oh, what about the canonized? What about the this, the that? What about the King James? What about the Septuagint? What about Martin Luther? Bishop Barron still finds value in much of what Martin Luther said. And he says if Martin Luther wouldn't have gone so far, he could have become his own sect within the church and contributed greatly, right? But we're all the body. And it is special. It's special because it is the unique spiritual, religious, metaphysical, philosophical, mathematical distinction, literarily and literally, mythologically, physically, that says we will not butcher. We will not butcher. We will protect the weak. We will not. People don't realize, man. Crucifixions. I mean, it still has happened up to this day. It's been a slowing down, right? So, because populations have increased, even as the acceleration has, acceleration can decrease while velocity increases. So the acceleration has decreased. This is the revelation. And I guess mathematicians would be more into this as into the f prime and the f double prime, right? The derivative and the second derivative, right? The acceleration has decreased. We are reaching the point of acceleration decreasing to a negative. The velocity of butchery has increased, but its acceleration has slowed. So the speed of butchery, the mechanisms of butchery have increased, but the acceleration has slowed down. It's an incredibly simple concept and incredibly difficult to wrap your mind around because of the enemy. But your acceleration can decrease while your velocity increases, right? That's where we're at. When that acceleration reaches a 0 point, and when I say when, I mean somewhere between 50 years ago and 50 years from now. That is when, now is when. That new thing comes from below the surface. It's like Jaws. It's also interesting that Ethiopia is shaped like a shark tooth. Counterintuitively, in so much as Ethiopia is the anti-shark. Not necessarily as it exists today, but as it exists as a thought form across time, including today, but not all of it, and not necessarily its governmental structure, but not. That the movie Jaws, with that huge fucking shark beneath the surface, with the teeth in the crescent moon shape beneath the surface. The killer, the ultimate killer from the depths. Who was it who was in the belly of the whale? The old man in the sea, Moby Dick, Job. Who the fuck was it in the belly of the whale, right? You don't escape from the belly of the shark, man. Dude digests fucking license plates, right? Except metaphysically, what's coming is the butcher of butchery. Not the butcher, not the butchery of butchers. No. We want to even save butchers, yes. If we can. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say it. Like, sharks will not be saved. There may be souls of sharks. There may be souls of sharks that come to a higher level. Maybe. Why are all these mammalian sea creatures killing themselves? Because in their form, they will never find. You cannot protect innocence in the ocean. Today. Someday. Someday. But not today. When the oceans are made benevolent, and the good hope is that benevolence exists there. But it's rare. But something huge is coming from beneath the surface. There's no stopping it. our resistance will destroy us. What we need is flexibility. Not flexibility to the horror that is amongst us, but flexibility to the beauty that is birthing, the beauty of the good. And the good is love. And when I say the beauty, unfortunately, we cannot underestimate the ferocity of true love. In popular culture, as has been my experience and I've been subject to and I have suffered in the luxury of my suffering. I've been afforded the luxury of suffering, hurt, of what I thought was true love. Right? When true love is caring for a baby, when true love is setting a bone that's been broken, when true love is cleaning the grime and the blood, when true love is alleviating the pain of someone hurting, sick, when true love is putting your arm around someone who smells like piss and just saying, I'm there for you. Feeding them, healing them. Yes, that's one thing. And another thing is just saying, I'm there for you. Now, I don't do those things, but I'm attempting to minister to those things. I hope I get there. But in a sense, I'm ministering to myself, because this is a diary of sorts, and also I'm trying to build a philosophy. I'm trying to find a way to talk about things that will make a difference. Because people say, like, boys will be boys, right? It's always been that way. It's always going to be that way. Or the circle of life. I hate it. I hate the circle of life. Now, circle of life, like in the movie The Lion King, people shit on all that stuff, right? But there ain't no... The Lion King, in The Lion King, you never see that fucker rip nothing apart, right? The circle of life is a spiral. In a sense, the devil is that circle, is trying to recreate this pattern. The circle of life versus the spiral of life is the difference between forever and eternity. As it turns out, forever is a really long time, but it's not eternal, necessarily. Eternity possesses every forever, and no forever possesses eternity. If we're thinking about like what I've heard called the difference between the good and bad infinity of Hegel, where the good infinity would be like collapsing something down, like the inward infinity of division, so to speak, versus the 1 plus 2 or 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 infinity. Right? The counting infinity is considered, I've heard it said, the counting infinity is the Hegelian bad infinity. Whereas in arrays, harmonics, proportions, ratios, ration, infinitesimals, that's all related more to the Hegelian good infinity. But then there are problems with the Hegelian dialectic as I've heard it taught to me, but I'm not an expert on Hegel, so I haven't become familiar with his actual like philosophy, so I can't say exactly, except for that the whole idea of like thesis, antithesis, synthesis, if that's all we have, then it's good, or it's okay, but it's not like good or great. And okay is, and when I say it's okay, that's actually a vast improvement over like not so good, right? But my deep concern is that like what's good and bad are put on opposite sides of the coin. And I guess that's what brings me, and maybe you can connect the dots here, even though I'm kind of making a seeming non sequitur, but it's not. The I am. I am that I am. Before you were, I am. I am the Alpha and the Omega. The Alpha and the Omega because Alpha is the first letter of the Greek alphabet and Omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet. So I'm the beginning and the end. Right? So if we think of the universe or the Big Bang, right? And we think of those cosmological maps where it's just like as it turns out, the universe is essentially flat. I guess it would be a little bit frieze-like, but because its breadth is so wide, it's almost flat as a pancake, right? Because they say like you know, the deserts or the west are flat as a pancake, the plains are flat as a pancake, but as it turns out, like a pancake's less flat. And it turns out the universe is more flat. Proportionally. Depending on what we mean by flat. But if we consider, well, one way of thinking about it would be is if we consider the entire universe existing with the material, viewable, visible material universe is existing within a hemispheric plane of a sphere. And another way of thinking about it is the Big Bang essentially is I am. There are two choices. Right? Nothing ever existed. Nothing. There's nothing, right? Except for the possibility of something, which is the womb. The mother pre-exists everything. Mom. The womb. And like zero. The vesica. But it's not quite a vesica. the mother pre-exists everything, which is the possibility, the want for love, and the want of communion, the want of creation to make something else, right? Nothing in this world makes anything without a mom that we know. And for that matter, we ourselves, right? Because we think of like the mother's seed and the father's sperm. A father's sperm was created recently. A mother's seed was created in her mother's womb. So in a sense, we're really the product of our grandmother, whatever was happening in our grandmother's life at the time of our mother's conception, when the eggs in her ovaries were formed. And then whatever's been happening in the last couple few weeks, few days, whatever, of our dads, couple days, hours, is the sperm. So the womb is like this longevity, and the sperm is like this immediacy. And it's really interesting to think that like we're double woman. Even us men, we're double women. Because the DNA, my pattern was made inside my grandmother's womb, not my mother's womb. My DNA, my pattern, my pater, my father, my mater, my mother. My pattern was made in my grandmother and in my father. That's where my pattern was formed in the physical world. My pattern was born in my dad's nutsack and in my grandmother's womb as she held her child with eggs. Those patterns came together within my mother's womb, where I was held. In a sense, all mothers, in a sense, are surrogate mothers. But yet, no one loves us more than our mother. But our patterns do not come from our mothers. Our patterns come from our grandmothers and our fathers. It's fucked up. Our physical patterns, right? But our spiritual patterns come from our mother. No one loves us more than our mother. God is love. Right? God is immaterial. Right? Our mothers bring us to be so that we may become. In their womb, with a pattern that is of their mother and their husband or their lover, maybe even someone who takes advantage of them, however that may be. But within that womb, within that convergence of patterns of those who surround the woman, the mother, there's this confluence in a woman's life. Who has more influence than their mother and their lover? Right? Well, of course, her father, but it's more than a Russian doll. And it's more than a web. A web is flat. It's flat and intertwined. A web is flat and intertwined. Russian dolls are, stacked eggs. But this is like both of those concepts put together, where it's like intertwined corpuscular Russian dolls. Like bubbles that intersect bubbles. I am. If we consider, because there's I am and there's am I am is the first thought. And what within the possibility of the womb, I am. But there's no one else there. God. God. There's no one to pray to. You're God. I am. But when there's no one else there, do you decide to create then? Well, then what about free will? If you're just I am and then you create, then it's just a mechanism. It's not alive. The question, am I, in a sense, poetically, creates life. Because then there's an urge. If the first thought in the womb is, am I? Death, immediately. And to some extent, philosophically or naturally philosophically, you can conceive of how most most miscarriages are first pregnancies, statistically. Though not most first pregnancies are miscarriages, right? But the am I as a first principle is statistically, if you're God and the first question you have is am I, there's not enough push. And certainly, if the first thought, conception of God where I am not, then conception wouldn't even occur, right? I'm a little bit screwing up this metaphor, or this analogy. But maybe you catch my drift. But if we think of the endpoint as the I am of all possible I ams, because they show pictures of the cosmos going like this, or however it goes, or like this. But if we think of the I am as a first principle, as like the most superluminal bullet, as c squared, essentially. Right? If we think of it, and this is just a thought experiment or a way of thinking about it, but if we think of the I am as c squared, that's the pull. I am. That's the pull. And the fall is, am I? So if we consider the I am as c squared, and we consider the am I as c, like that pull, that pull, that pull of the I am is the gravity that the entire cosmos is falling to. Because we think of free fall toward the earth, right? Because when you free fall toward the earth, you're in a 0G thing. And then we know we're in a zero G thing when we're out in outer space. And it's always just perplexed me why we don't think that we're actually falling towards something, right? And we know that the cosmos is expanding beyond us at a greater speed than the speed of light. So what if that gravity is the I am, the endpoint we're coming to now? That would also suggest that space will contract, but it won't contract all the way back to the beginning in non-existence. It will contract back to the am I. And everything that exists at that moment, when the I am contracts back toward the am I, will be the answers yes to the am I. And all that has said I am not will be extinguished. Not in essence, but in so much as it has been expressed. Better luck next time.